Hello and welcome to the Guitar Hang Podcast. I'm your host, John Stancorp. Today I've got an incredible guest, a true guitar wizard who's played with some of the biggest names in rock and pop, Rafael Moreira. A studio great who's worked with legends like Pink, Paul Stanley of Kiss, Christina Aguilera, and so many more. His ability to blend technical skill with pure emotion has made him one of the most in-demand guitarists in the industry. But that's not all. He's also the driving force behind his powerhouse trio, Magnetico, where he showcases his versatility and passion for rock in a whole new way. Whether shredding on stage with rock icons, laying down unforgettable licks in the studio, or leading Magnetico with raw energy and killer riffs, Rafael's talent is undeniable. It's my honor to welcome the amazing Rafael Moreira to the show.
Gonna be good.
Yeah. So I take it when you were younger, you had the benefit of having siblings that you played with, which was a huge thing, for any kid coming up, because you have the helpfulness of having siblings doing it, but you kind of have a built-in band of some sort. And then the constructive competition is another great element of that growing up. And you grew up in a very fertile, rich musical environment, Brazil, with Joe Beam and so many, you kind of had the best of both, the rock thing plus.
Yeah, to a certain extent. My mother's a piano player. She's a musician, and she taught music when we were little kids. She had a choir, so we were immediately put in the choir.
Yeah.
Me, two older brothers. My little sister wasn't born yet. My sister was born when I was 7 years old, so I was the youngest of the boys. And so my mom taught guitar as well, and me and my brothers wanted to play guitar, and then I got an electric guitar. One of my older brothers got a bass, and my eldest brother got a drum set.
Yeah.
And we developed a trio. Kids wanted to play rock and roll, everybody played. So, there was no other thing, nothing else besides wanting to play rock and roll.
Right.
With playing football, soccer, and
Right. Yeah.
and other things that we did, BMX, and riding bikes, and we had fun as kids. We played outside.
Yeah.
Even though we did have an Atari.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of like the Game Boy thing.
Yeah.
But man, there was no substitute to playing an electric guitar into like a giant, heavy distortion pedal that you couldn't carry around. It was so heavy, Jesus.
Right.
So it was so much fun, man. And, when I was 11, I was studying at a school that had other people, playing, older kids that play guitar. So it was a magical time to play guitar in front of people and feel that rush, and it was just an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
I think I'm lucky because my mom and dad were really open as far as us playing music and choosing what we wanted to do. We were good kids, but it was nice to have that open environment where we actually got to play music and perform and
Yeah.
live it
Yeah.
as kids, go out and play at night. Sometimes we would go, my dad would find a way to take us somewhere or get somebody to take us to jam. I have photos, that you can see.
Yeah.
Those speakers from the old stereo?
Oh yeah.
We were to use them to make the guitar louder at shows.
Yeah.
At 11 years old or even younger, with overalls and Converse and fedora hats, playing guitar. I'm like,
Yeah.
just amazing. It was a beautiful time, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and nothing would take me away from wanting to do that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful time because, when you're 11, you're at the height of, or maybe the birth of the guitar hero, and you had movies like Back to the Future and Crossroads. So you had, Steve Vai with David Lee Roth, and you had Eddie with Sammy Hagar. But in that period, but then you had Doc, and then you had Ozzy with Jakey Lee. After Randy's passing, you're kind of in the epicenter of the guitar hero, and you're 11. How you could not be, if you're playing rock and roll guitar, how you could not be influenced by all those guys. And it was the songs that you're hearing on the radio had long guitar solos for the time, things that
I
you wouldn't hear, and it was considered pop radio.
I am a huge result of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, if, yeah, when I play guitar, I was just doing some rehearsals at Center Stage in close by with a young artist, and every, I didn't ask, I wasn't asking, but every song had a, we're playing the songs live, and every song had a giant guitar solo.
Right.
Every song that I played,
Right.
5 weeks, every song had a solo. Let's do a guitar solo here. On the other song, let's do a guitar solo. And every single time I would improvise a giant, crazy. I was getting tired of it. I was like,
Right.
nonetheless, I was like having so much fun, and I love playing, man. And it's just and bringing everything that we think it's great with it. Good
Hmm.
vibrato, good banding, good tones, construction, creativity in every single solo. Every single solo sounded different, but with the same energy and passion. And I love it. I love it, man. I'm embodied that,
Right.
and I bring that to the table every time. But it's I think I'm a result of an environment that I lived through. And
Right.
as you said, it's a beautiful thing. I love that era. I miss Dawkins though.
Okay.
It wasn't around where I grew up. I
Right.
know who Dawkins is, and um, God,
George Lynch.
George. Yeah, I miss George a little bit. Uh, but Jake
Oh yeah.
Lee, wild, and Jake was amazing. I love his riffs. I love Ozzy's albums with Jake.
Yeah.
I love the
That's what
song,
yeah.
and it sounds great. Ozzy sounds great, and I love a couple of the first Zach Wild albums too. It's very good.
Yeah. Miracle Man and all that. All that.
Yeah, it's great riffs, man. He sounds great. Zach was killing it. What an incredible performance! To watch Zach perform back in the day when I was a kid, it's like this guy is incredible and looked amazing. You know?
Right. Yeah. I think the players that came out of being influenced by those, it's kind of like the analogy about a tree. The closer you get to the trunk of the tree, those guys they were still pulling from blues
Yeah,
phrasing, but like a Gary Moore kind of thing. But then they all had been a little bit inspired maybe by Ingve or whomever, or Randy or Eddie. So, but it always retained a sense of melody. While it was really fast up, there was always something because they were given an opportunity to solo, but you had to make a statement of some kind, and it was drawn on melody and just what's going to fit for the radio. So it was flashy stuff, but at the same time, I thought incredibly hummable. You could see the audience singing those solos. And I think the further out that we get with virtuoso guitar playing, you're missing a little bit of things when it's not as melodic or as memorable or interesting or things that you can hang your hat on.
I agree. I love John Sykes,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
I'm a huge fan of John Sykes. I could never get over the fact that he wasn't in the band to this day. With all the respect to anybody, I do like Red Beach, uh, and Doug. Doug is great, but I'm saying nothing touches John in his
right,
element. Please, I mean, what a disservice that I think Coverdale did. Not to. I'm not saying that. Hey, John was great, did right, or everyone has their own egos and their own dramas. We gotta be sometimes grounded.
hmm
But what's best for the band was the great songwriting dynamic of those two, and how he played. I mean, that album '87 is amazing.
Oh
His
yeah.
his love solos are beautiful. Every solo in that album is incredible. So I'm sorry, man, and Eat 'Em and Smile, right? Dave Lee
Oh
Roth.
yeah.
That's one of my favorite albums of all time. Steve's best work for me. I love that album, and I think there's a lot of passion behind
Yeah.
those solos and the performances. It's not it's not like dead weight, It's just this people, everyone had feelings. It's just you can feel it. It's emotion. You feel it. Every band, every statement, as you were saying, it's like unbelievable. So
Yeah.
I thought of that, I love that and I respect that a lot, But I think there's gotta be a story when you're soloing, and it connects, each statement connects to the other, and it develops. It is a beautiful story, every solo. And then I think it comes down to songwriting. That album, Dave Lee Roth's album with Steve Vai, the songs are great. It's
Yeah.
well written, and
Right.
and so is '87. I mean, that's a big album. I think one of the best that Whitesnake ever had, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that was a wonderful period of time. When I was driving around, I was probably 21, 22, and I had the cassette of 5150 on one side and Eat 'Em
I
and
love
Smile
that
on the
album.
other side. And I just listened to it back and forth because it was never a one or the other. I loved them both, but Steve had a sense of humor in what he did that just it. I found that really fun. The stuff that he was doing with the wah wah pedal and making the guitar talking and the bar. I just was totally blown away that he had such a he was very cheeky with what he did. It was and then live to see him throw his guitar up on top of the thing and start playing it like that, it was like taking the showmanship to a whole new level.
I totally love it. And with Crossroads, the movie with Ralph
Yeah.
Macchio, I love that movie so much. I mean, he played the best devil. He was killing. Just he played great. I talked to him about it. I was actually rehearsing next to those guys, Ingve and Steve. I was in the American Idol band with Ricky Minor, and I think we're gonna play a song from that album. I don't
Oh,
remember what song it was, but I said to Ricky Minor, the MD, he had a question about the song. I was like, "Hey, let's just go next door and talk to Steve,
yeah.
so we know how it's done." Because Paul Jackson and I were playing guitar, and
Okay.
we want to see how he was doing it. But I'm a fan, man. I love that era. I come from there. But I think there's a lot to do with the dynamics that came from Zeppelin. Great singing, great guitar playing. Everybody had a role to play, and it was a beautiful thing. Um, I think I think we're in an era where everything needs to be cut away. Let's just go to the source. No, the source is just not one thing. It's just the source is look in Zeppelin. Robert Plant to me is incredible, but he knew how to just move away and play some maracas.
Yeah.
Let this guys play music,
Yeah.
and there's no problem. We know who John Paul Jones is. We know and we love him. Let's hear him play some keys here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've been a part of The Voice, American Idol, Rockstar in Excess, and Supernova. The band is as important. The guitar player is as important as the singer. You don't cut everybody else, and
Right.
I think that's the result we have. There's a lot of bad people managing things, ruling things, and taking the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And it usually is about the money, right? The end
Right.
result, more money for. I don't want to get into it, but you see what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, and that's an interesting segue into a topic that there's not many guitar players or musicians and of any kind that are going to make their career, or at least a sizable portion, as a side person, and know how to navigate those waters between you have to you're responsible to work for the artist, but then you've got management to deal with. And then the touring scenario, it's a very fragile ecosystem. You can be a great player, but if you're not a great hang and you don't fit into the, I mean, it's amazing how a project or how a tour can go south quickly when one person is just not jiving or gelling. And you can kind of see how certain people may have, your favorite players may not have ended up playing on tour after tour. Maybe they just had a falling out, or they didn't get along well. They couldn't play well with others. That's a tricky thing that you only learn from experience.
No, absolutely. I think the hang behind the stage and the traveling is as important, you know. I've always enjoyed the tour, man. I always enjoyed touring. I
Yeah.
always had a lot of fun, and yeah, it's always been a lot of fun. I think for me, what makes or breaks is the music. After a while, if the music is not satisfying you, I mean, it's really a paycheck, and it's fine. A lot of people go to 9 to 5s that they don't love to survive, and we all do that to a certain extent. But that's just my experience, you know. So I'm like I'm like a child in a sense. I want to have fun.
Right.
When I toured with Paul Stanley for the first time in '06, I remember him saying, not once, but several times after the shows, this was my favorite show ever.
Oh,
And I
wow.
and I know he meant it because he was talking about the moment.
Right.
And I remember being an amazing moment. Every single show was like, oh my God, this was fun.
Right.
Because we're playing Kiss music. We're not in Kiss, so I can take solos.
Right.
Need to necessarily be Ace, which I love, and I grew up with Ace. But I can do extra solos at the outros, and we take the Kiss music to another place, which can be fun, and the people
Right.
accepted that. But Paul is a fun guy to work with. He was a great front man. He's a classic front man to that stature, you know, and it's a huge privilege to all of us to be in that presence. And it was fun, man. It was all a lot of fun. The crowd was into it because they felt it.
Yeah.
Music is emotion. Without emotion, it becomes like, oh, it's so impressive, but you don't feel it.
Right.
So being really good and not having any emotion or any sort of interaction with one another in between the band members or obviously the audience, it I don't know. I'm more of a feel guy, so I love that, man. I love having fun. If it's not fun, then you move on, you know?
Right.
If people are making it work, this is work. No, this is not work. I'm a professional. I'm gonna be there on time. I'm gonna be respectful, and vice versa. But when it's on, this is on. We're gonna rock it
Yeah.
and move on the next day and the next day and the next day until the tour is over. So I think it's how you look at it, it's how you perceive it, it's how you react to it. But just going back to the first point, it is a you know it's how you behave and how you interact with everybody. You have to be a team player,
Yeah.
you know, and you have to recognize what you do. Some people don't, though. There's ego. That's why Malcolm and you know those guys,
Yeah.
there was no issue, you know. Angus and Malcolm. Malcolm knew his place. He was incredible at it.
Yeah.
People say that he carried the band. But he wasn't trying to go out there, look, I want to get a spotlight because my brother's getting the spotlight.
Right.
He was the band, like John Paul Jones.
Right.
We're gonna go back and talk about him because we love music. And I, as you know, always loved how he played bass and stuff. But half of the stage, the center stage, was Jimmy Page.
Right.
So what? That's how it is. You need that that person to be in center staging, and nobody cares because they understand it, each other's role. There's no jealousy, and so there's a lot of that, man. When you're working with people that you've been assembled with,
Right.
and not it wasn't your choice or a group choice to be together. So when you're put in a situation that wasn't your choice, I noticed those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the great thing is you've had a lot of variety, to go from artists as diverse as Pink, Christina Aguilera, and Don Felder, Paul Stanley. That's a great thing to be able to have, to be able to go from, you know, to have the variety of, the touring thing, but also the songs and, the
Yeah, the
body
TV
work.
show, the TV work. You notice those dynamics, because a lot of times if you get a gig, you're putting together with people that you never met, or you got to be aware of their dynamics. I know my role, and I know what I do well, and trust me, man. Some people, they don't want anybody to question
Right.
their authority. They would prefer sacrificing quality and greatness, so nothing changes for them.
Right.
So you want to be surrounded by yes people. You know, I'm fine with it. Life keeps moving, man.
Right.
Experiences. I love the fact that I'm making music of my own and I'm doing my own shows, and when I have the opportunity to work with others, I love doing that too. As
Yeah.
long as I appreciate being there, which I usually, when I say yes, I do,
Yeah.
and you want to be appreciated, man. It's normal.
Yeah. The artists that you've worked with, I'm sure they've influenced you as a guitarist and a musician, but uh, how can you, or what would you speak to as far as like being an engineer or a producer or working on projects or putting together things, being able to be hired as a musical director? I mean, are there things that you could say, like Paul Stanley, you learned something about production from him, or Don Felder, anything beyond the guitar scope as far as production, engineering, any of that kind of stuff?
I think, I think when I think you learn from anybody you're around. I'm learning things from you. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you got to be alert, and you got to be um, open to and humble. I know that I have some qualities, but as a person, a human being, like I, so many times I look at myself, I know nothing, like literally nothing. And I don't know. I learned from Pink so much as a young guy,
Yeah.
touring with a girl. I learned so much. In relation to women, being respectful to certain things. It was great. It was great, my time with her. You know, um, I decided to move on and do Rockstar because it was at home after
Right.
6 years touring, playing the same sort of material. It was nice to be home and playing rock and roll.
Oh yeah.
It was a huge deal. Too bad it lasted 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But then Paul Stanley called, so it wasn't that bad.
Right. Yeah.
You're learning so much, you're learning that some people will sabotage you. As bad as it sounds, it's crazy, man. But I'm fine, like I see it, and I just I believe that you need to keep moving towards what you want, really, what you love, in order not to let it affect you.
Yeah.
Because people will play against you. People will say things about you that are not true.
Yeah.
So you got to keep moving towards the goals that you have, because that's the only way that you create your own bubble that protects you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I've been in many projects, man, and everything is going well until somebody else comes in and it ruins the whole thing, the dynamics. And like you still try as a team player, you try, and then until it's unbearable, then you move on. You gotta give it a try. But learning from everybody, man, learning from everything, learning from every day, from life in general.
Yeah.
Not one thing, but just in general. Even when you have very, like with Don Felder, was very, I didn't play with him very long, and it wasn't a role that I wanted. I don't like doing that type of work,
Mhm.
like having to do, 1,000 different guitar changes and different tunings and slides to support another guitar player. That's not my role.
Right.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I know who Don Felder is, and I know what it represents, but that's not me.
Right.
But I still appreciated being able to have done that, even if it was that little.
Yeah.
But you have to tell yourself that's not you, man.
Yeah. That's the thing that's really a huge thing, getting to know who you are as a musician and what circumstances you're going to thrive under, because there's nothing worse than being ill suited for a gig where you're just feeling like it's just like wearing tight shoes that are on the wrong feet. It just feels very uncomfortable, you know, feels very
It's
awkward.
it does. I've experimented certain things, and it's really bad. It is awkward, but it tells you, listen, this is not maybe for you. So it's good. Then you move on, and you don't feel bad about it because you know it's not for you.
Right. And with Magnetico is a project that is that a trio?
Yeah,
Or
it's a trio. When I do the records, I try to keep it as a trio, even though once in a while I'll add some keys,
Mhm.
and things here and there. But live, usually it's a trio. There's no extra anybody. Not that I wouldn't add somebody in the future if if there was some sort of necessity for that. I think it's cool. It's cool to hear certain things live, but I think it's cool to have that emptiness.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I love that. And I always told a certain musical director, "Hey man, I don't always like having a guitar player playing under my solo."
Yeah.
Some people don't understand that. And I kept saying to multiple musical directors that I worked with, all of them known guitar players, because they don't understand guitar. Listen, man, I like the emptiness. I like some keypads instead of other guitars.
Right.
You have to always have a guitar player playing under. Ask the Police, ask Zeppelin. I
Yeah.
mean,
King's X. Yeah.
oh my God, ask Whitesnake with the best formation that I like,
Right.
or Dave Lee Roth with Steve Vai, and so forth and so forth. So we like that. But I don't mind Iron Maiden. I love Iron Maiden. I like
Right.
that's too. I like it all, but to each its own. But Magnetico is something that I enjoy putting together. There's 3 releases, 2 full albums. We just released a new single out now, and there's another single too that is coming out soon.
Right.
2 more that will become an EP. And yeah, we opened for Kiss. We opened for King's X that you mentioned.
Yeah.
We toured with Steel Panther, which was super fun.
That sounds like it would be a adventure right there.
It was great. I mean, those guys are awesome players.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we have in common with the audience, but it's still fun, and I take the opportunities when they come. You know how it is.
Oh yeah.
And I think things were a little easier back in the day, to open for a bigger band. I think people become greedy. It's a time where if you go travel with airline, they don't want to give you meals. I'm
Right.
just giving you an idea here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you get a band like Kiss that tours is like, you know, the majority of the time there's no opening act. I'm like, no, give it back. Put somebody to open for you. Or you have a band that I'm not gonna name that will pay to open for a bigger band. Like, no, give an opportunity to a smaller band full of talent. I'm not talking about Magnetical in general to open for you guys. You made it. You're making good money. Let a band that has talent open for you guys. You see, it becomes greedy when even on that level there's this pay to play thing.
Right.
Oh, we're gonna pay 100 grand for this band to take us on tour. We're gonna pay 100 grand. No, it used to be the opposite. They
Yeah.
had the 100 grand to spare. Or now that you take a flight, they take your meal away. It's a weird time, man. It's like
Yeah.
stop being greedy, guys. Chill. That's where I'm talking about that I feel like, let's just talk about the singer.
Yeah.
Let's not mention that there's a bass player or a keyboard player. The memes, the singer gets 4 girlfriends, the guitar gets 2.
Yeah.
The bass player gets a kitty with whiskers if he's
Right.
the drummer has a wife,
Right.
and the keyboard player maybe has a fish.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's certainly a hierarchy in a lot of those scenarios, sadly.
No, I'm talking about like, this whole singing competitions, and I still think great music comes from a great bass player that writes great songs, or the drummer that writes amazing lyrics, Rush,
Right.
and besides one of the best ever. It comes from anywhere. So you gotta give value to everybody.
Right. Have you done a lot of in the early days? Were you doing a lot of work with different manufacturers as like a clinician, or doing like demoing gear, like an amp, like when you were first getting started in the business?
You know, um, I think I was never well, it's hard to say. I think that whole sort of thing started happening for me when I got the gig with Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
I had a deal with Dean Markley Strings, and one of my roommates was one of the owners at Bogner,
Oh wow.
Jorg, the partner, Reinhold's partner. So
Yeah.
I used to play Bogner, but they would never invest. I mean, obviously throughout the years I got hooked up here and there, obviously, but that's not their thing. Most
Right.
people get a free amp from them, but so it wasn't so much from the amp, strings, and other brands. Throughout the years, man, I've done a lot of clinics. It became a thing for me to talk about my playing, my approach to guitar. and I also play some of my songs from my first album, Acid Guitar, which I play to this day. You know, I have written new songs, and I do a lot of shows at Baked Potato here in LA.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen the Instagram stuff of. I love that place. You know.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great place. And people come and see, and I love playing. You know, I love playing that music as well. Um, so I use a lot of that music to do clinics and things like that. I was never really the demo guy.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not too much into the gear,
yeah,
even though I like gear. I'm not a gearhead, even though I
right.
have gear, and I love my tone. I know my tone. So I don't need to be navigating. I don't feel the need to be jumping here and jumping there and jumping there. I got my sound.
Yeah,
I got my sound a long time ago. And I always aimed for that as a kid. Some of the older players would tell me, you know, when people hear you on the radio, they got to know it's you. It's Hafa.
right.
So I never want to copy people. I want it to sound like me. That doesn't mean I didn't get influenced by John Sykes, Scott Henderson. I mean, the police. I mean, anything that you throw at me, I love it. I listen. It's coming out somewhere.
Yeah,
So, but I just wasn't copying it. I just felt like once you listen, you are what you listen to.
yeah,
So that comes out, you know, more naturally, more organically, I think.
yeah,
But sound, I feel like I have a tone, a sound. So I don't need to be jumping from tree to tree. And that's kind of, I think, it, you it feels like you become a little more generic when you demoing everybody's amps and everybody's pedals, and you don't really
right,
have your own identity. But I mean, it's nothing against it, you know. It's just you are who you are, you know.
right.
But I still talk about, you know, product here and there if I'm giving the opportunity.
Yeah,
Um, it's just I'm just saying, you know, you are who you are, and I like to let people know, you know,
yeah,
so they some people can have some in common or not.
yeah, yeah. Your tone, I think, is fantastic. I think it would be that way regardless of the gear because you have your you know what you're going for if you're plugging into a Bogner, if you're plugging into a Boogie or whatever. But having said that, I two Bogner players that I love besides well one besides you is Steve Lukather, and I saw that you ran into Steve recently. You guys were rehearsing somewhere. Uh,
Luke is a friend, you know. Uh, Luke is a good friend. Like when I did Rockstar,
yeah,
he would come backstage almost every episode and give me hugs and, man, you're a bad motherfucker. I love that. I felt like in heaven every single time I saw that guy because you know, he's just a very interesting. He's just got an amazing aura about him. You
he's
know,
got a very big heart. He's just a very
he's
sweet guy.
people I ever met. When I was doing Rockstar on CBS and I had the wall of Bogganers, I had six 412s. I mean, the sound was unbelievable. It was giant for a TV band. I don't know. I
Yeah,
brought it and I had a great time doing it. And then Mike Melinda flew in to do an interview for Guitar Player magazine and invited me to be a judge on this Guitar Player magazine guitar competition.
yeah,
And it was Satriani, myself, Lukather, and Richie Kotzen. Luke and myself and Richie flew from LA, from Burbank here to
yeah,
San Francisco, and it was a great hang. You
yeah,
know, we got in a limo, those guys were talking politics, and I was just like younger, you know, just like
yeah,
having fun because Luke was already someone I knew. Richie I knew a little bit, but always always had a good energy from Richie. It's almost like we knew each other for years.
yeah,
Same vibe, same sort of, and we're friends to this day. So being in that environment with those guys, you know, just it was just a lot of fun. You know, I think I think I don't know if that played any. I don't know if that played a role in Steve moving to play Wagner's because he can play whatever he wants.
Right, yeah.
I remember one time I gave him my first album and I never heard from him. And one time I was walking on Ventura Boulevard by Guitar Center.
Yeah.
Him and his kid Trev,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
got and now Trev's traveling and anyway, I remember just hearing Hafa and this truck just comes in and in front of me and they come out of the truck and Steve's like, man, I just heard your album that you gave me, Acid Guitar, and I know he loved it. He
Yeah.
really loved it. And I was like, those are the biggest things for me because I love him. I think he's one of the most accomplished guitar players of our time. I always loved his playing. It's full of passion
Yeah.
and so I don't know if him playing Wagner had anything to do with, hey, let me try this, or
Yeah.
but I love the guy. I'm a huge fan. I'm always humbled every time I see him because he's so nice and so complimentative, and it is one of the few. I had a little bit of that with the guys in King's X.
Yeah.
Ty always been very complimentary. Uh, Jerry bought Magneticus tees, loved the music. The guys, Russ Parrish from
Steel
Steel
Panther.
Panther, those guys knows that they know every song.
That's
And
awesome.
still, I feel like this band is unheard of. But when you hear people like that
Yeah.
give you Nuno Bettencourt done that, and I love that because I'm a huge fan. I don't know, man. It's for me, it feels like I'm a kid again.
Yeah.
There's props behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a nice thing because I love all those guys. They're all incredible musicians, and
Yeah, it's a great community. I mean, I've been very fortunate to with folks like yourself sit down for an hour and chat, and almost every single one is just so nice and gracious, and everybody seems to know each other, and they speak highly of each other. It's a really super community of folks. I'm hoping to have Steve on the show. I know his guitar tech John Gosnell, and Steve recently had I think some sort of surgery or something like that.
right.
And
Yeah, he's an incredible guy, man.
yeah,
And
super nice guy.
there's so many incredible guitar players. I mean, we haven't even started. I mean, so many amazing. I mean, like from left, right, like what are you talking? Hold on. So, I mean, I'm just like, wow, humbled to be included here a little bit here and there.
Yeah,
I feel like a fish in the sea, nothing. But you have to stick to your voice because we're very unique as
yeah,
people. There's nobody like you, John. Like, no matter what, you have your own
yeah,
DNA, guitar playing, and same here. So it's important that we stick to our own
yeah,
voices so it becomes really cool and there's so many variety of musicians and people and
yeah,
voices.
yeah.
So I believe in that as well. But I do believe in I love so many guitar players, man. I mean,
Me too.
you talked to you said Scott Henderson, Frank Gambale, John McLaughlin, Alan Holsworth. I mean, Christ. I mean, Jeff Beck, for God's sake, Jimmy Page. I mean,
Yeah,
we haven't even started talking about
yeah.
you know.
We can go on for days talking about that kind of stuff. Yeah,
No, I mean, everybody. I mean, I do literally have respect for everybody, even if they're Dave Gilmer. I mean, it's mind blowing
right.
how beautiful it is. How much Dave Gilmer have influenced my playing just by listening to Pink Floyd so much
Yeah,
all the years is like
yeah, yeah.
incredible.
It's a wonderful time to be a guitar player. There's so many great ones and new ones coming out, and it's all. as long as you keep in the right perspective that, it's not a competition. Nobody's going to be awarded a gold medal as being the best, and it, you can spend so much time talking about who's the best, but I'd rather be playing guitar than talking about who's the best and trying to be a better version of myself by talking to you and being inspired by your playing and or Luke's playing or Guthrie Govan or whoever it might be. I just want to take it all in and enjoy it. It's like a big smorgasbord of amazing players. And when it turns out that the players that you admire turn out to be really great guys like yourself, and we'll spend an hour talking to somebody like that's the real joy in life, is the camaraderie that comes from conversations like this. I try not to make it about I don't I'm not going to say, okay, what kind of strings do you use, what kind of pedals. I want it to just be an organic conversation about who you are and what you like and what you don't like. If we drift off of guitar and start talking about football, awesome. If we talk about whatever.
Right. I mean, you're a good man, man. I could talk to you for a long time, John.
Oh, thank you. So I appreciate it, man. I'm very inspired to go out and check out Magnetico. I've been seeing your stuff on Instagram, and then when it's amazing you take in all these little things. But then when I get to hear the thing that's dearest to your heart, I feel like I'm really going to hear you as that's your essence is going to be that Magnetico project. So I'm very excited to check that out.
There's a new song. It's called "Is Her Body the Villain?" It's a pretty cool. I recorded with a Les Paul baritone.
Oh, nice.
Really big and giant riff. Really well constructed song, in my opinion. And I sing and play. There's two solos, and it's so much fun. But I like navigating. I was just in Europe with Simon Phillips
Hmm.
and Eric Sharanian playing some crazy prog fusion. It was not easy to learn the music, but once I I felt it was unbelievable. I posted a couple clips. I got to play with Brian May and Rick Wakeman, and
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of you playing the Red Special. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and it was amazing playing with him. It's the second time I see Brian May. The first time I met him, it was at Wembley Arena. I played with Pink, and I left the stage. I got down to the floor, and he was waiting, man. He was like, "Man, you're incredible," and I just froze. I just completely froze because he's one of my favorite guitar players ever. I loved Queen as a kid, and he's so good and still good. Amazing playing, beautiful vibrato.
Yeah.
So to hear him give me compliments again, how I felt like I was, man, you're so lyrical, and I said thanks to you, man, and yeah, I'm happy, I'm happy that I met some of my heroes. I got to play with some of them. I don't know, what else, as a kid, you want to be really good, you want to be the best, but there isn't the best,
Right,
none.
right.
There's like a ton of different flavors, and we get to listen to all these flavors and hang out. At the end of the day, I just want to be closer to more guitar players. I want to listen to more guitar every day,
Yeah,
and which nowadays there's a little less, but I want to be around more people. Maybe I'll move to Nashville or something. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, man,
Anyway,
this has been a incredible conversation. I just feel honored to hang out with you for a bit, and
thank you so much for having me, John. It was a really fun time. I
awesome.
appreciate the
I
opportunity.
I ask folks that are on the show if they could do a little something. I do little these short Instagram reels where just say, "Hey, this is Rafael Moreira. I'm sure I just mispronounced your name. I'm sorry." And you're listening to the Guitar Hang podcast with John Stancorb.
Yes. I don't wanna mispronounce your last name. Can you say that again?
It's John Stancorb.
Oh, Stancorp?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, my first name is Rafael
Rafael.
with an
Rafa-
A. So
Rafael.
because it's in Portuguese. So that first R in
How do
the
you pronounce your last name?
Moreira, you can say
Moreira.
Moreira.
Rafael Moreira. Oh, that sounds nice. I got it.
In Portuguese, we would say Rafael Moreira.
Oh, okay.
Here in the States, I usually say Rafael. Instead of Rafael, I say Rafael Moreira. So
Awesome.
it's stand court, right?
Yep.
Stand court. I just want to make sure, man. And we'll exchange numbers. If I need to ask you again,
Yeah.
I'll call you. Send me your number if you could
Yeah.
on email, man. But this was great. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. Yes. So you can say, "Hi, this is Rafael Moreira, and you're listening to the Guitar Hang podcast with John Stancorp."
Okay. Is this gonna, you would send me a link?
Yeah. It'll probably go out in the next few weeks, and I'll send you a YouTube link for it. It'll also be up on all the different Apple podcasts and stuff.
As soon as you do that, we'll maybe get on a phone call real quick, 30 seconds. I get this again, and I'll do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, man. Are you in LA?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Awesome.
I'll be out there. I'm going to see David Gilmour in October, so I'll be out there. I'm hopefully going to catch up with Stephen Perkins and Norwood and Scott Page and those guys.
Super fun. I'm doing a rock and roll fantasy camp with Steve soon in October.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that should be fun.
Yeah. Tell him I said hi. Just say John, the bald guy that you used to play with in the Pink Floyd group. He'll know who you're talking about.
I will let him know, man.
All right, man.
Have a great rest of your day.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Guitar Hang podcast. Conversations with noteworthy guitar players from around the world. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications to stay updated on our latest episodes.